To Legends, one board. In 1987, Mikhail Tal, the magician from Riga, faced Garry Kasparov, the world champion, at his peak. Both players go for a King's Indian setup. Tal chooses a solid kingside fianchetto, while Kasparov mirrors with g6 until bishop to g7 and castles quickly, balanced and flexible. Standard mainline, the game is shaping into a fianchetto variation of the King's Indian defense, where white aims for central control while black plays for dynamic counterplay. Tal opens the position early by capturing on c5. This leads to symmetrical pawn structures, but gives white slightly better control of the center. White develops actively, while Kasparov develops his bishop to threat c4 and prepare for central tension. Tal places a knight aggressively on e5. Kasparov responds with knight e5, eyeing c4 and putting pressure on white's queenside. Tal reroutes the knight to d3 for flexibility. Kasparov plays the sharp knight to h5, targeting white's dark-squared bishop. Tal decides to grab a pawn with knight takes pawn on c5. Kasparov responds by grabbing the bishop on f4 with knight. Tal grabs the hanging knight on f4. Kasparov activates his bishop by capturing on c4, opening long diagonals and claiming the initiative despite material equality. Tal activates his rook and eyes the c-file. Kasparov places his queen to reinforce c4 and support central play. A sharp moment, Tal grabs another pawn, but Kasparov did brilliant move, counterattacks with queen takes the pawn on f4, going after the weakened kingside. Tal threatens Kasparov's queen, this opens the line for bishop. Kasparov slides his queen back to e5, strengthening the hold on his knight and tightening his grip on the position. Tal plays a great move, capturing the knight on a5 while simultaneously threatening the bishop on c4, but Kasparov responds by moving his queen to capture Tal's poisoned knight. Then the rooks are exchanged, and the battle grows even more intense. Tal invites a queen exchange, and Kasparov, without hesitation, agrees. Tal's knight takes the queen, but Kasparov immediately strikes back, capturing the vulnerable bishop. Refusing to back down, Tal recaptures the bishop with his king. Kasparov, in turn, spots a weakness on the b2 pawn and targets the rook. Tal checks with a knight move to e7. Kasparov responds by attacking the knight and brings his king to f8. Tal offers a rook exchange with a check on c8, and Kasparov has no choice but to accept. The knight captures the rook on c8, and Kasparov pushes his pawn to a6 to avoid the threat. Entering the endgame, Tal presses with knight to b6. Kasparov responds with king to e7, supporting the pawn. Tal refuses to back down and moves his king to e2. Kasparov continues with king to e6. Tal plays knight to c4, threatening the bishop. Kasparov responds bishop to e5, threatens the pawn on h2. Tal steps away from the threat of the h3 pawn, while Kasparov advances his f5 pawn. Tal pushes his pawn forward, attacking the bishop on e5. Kasparov retreats the bishop to c7, keeping it safe and keep the diagonal line. Tal pushes his king to d3 to support the pawn. Kasparov responds with h6, starting to develop his kingside. Tal brings his knight to d2, reinforcing the center and protecting his pawn. Kasparov offers a pawn trade. The offer is accepted. They exchange pawns. After that, Tal invites another pawn trade, but Kasparov sidesteps it by first moving his king to f6. Then, the pawn exchange finally takes place once again. A tactical duel in the endgame. Tal marches his king to d4, while Kasparov brings his king to f4. Tal jumps his knight to e4, eyeing the pawn on g5. Kasparov calmly defends with bishop to d8. Then Tal brings his king to d5. And with that, the battle reaches its end. Both legends agree to a draw. There's no realistic way for either side to break through without risking a loss. That was a fierce clash between two legends. What did you think of the game? If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe. See you on the next board.